Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, and welcome to another Balls Out podcast and another Red Devils Roundup. Not really an impromptu show tonight. We had it planned, but we are struggling a little bit with only real two subjects to talk about. But we thought it was best to get on and get our opinions across on those subjects. But as always, welcoming Mr. Langridge, always here, always available. Thank you very much, mate. How you doing? Are you on mute again?
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. It's like my trademark.
It is.
Um, no, I'm happy to be here. Had a bit of a shit day with work, so happy to get on here talking about United and potential things that have been changing. The match, the Sesko, probably one of my new favourite players in Aiden Heaven. Those
Mm.
sort of things.
Yeah. So, yeah, like we say, yeah, not massive amounts to talk about, but it's important that we address a couple of the things that have been going on. Very quickly, I just wanted to mention, obviously, difficult times at other clubs, not so much United, but places like Sheffield Wednesday and Morecambe in real difficulty at the moment. So I don't think the media is really highlighting how desperate times are. You know, you've got threats of strike action at Sheffield Wednesday. Morecambe are just days away from closing their doors. And it is such a massive shame to see such community clubs and massive club in Sheffield Wednesday just ultimately struggling. So just thought I would highlight that because it's really important that these communities keep their football clubs because, you know, owners leave, managers change, players come and go, fans always and communities always stay the same. And that is the life and soul of a football club is the support, and if you haven't got a club to support, then it's got to be one of the hardest things to take. So I just thought I would highlight that.
I second that. My granddad was a massive Sheffield Wednesday fan. It was Wednesday or United for me. They were my choices. And yeah, with what's gone on in Sheffield as a whole in this country, it's a fucking disgrace. And people are just targeting it with the steelworks that we still can't sort out as a national thing. And now it's affecting Sheffield Wednesday for whatever reason. So watch this space with Sheffield United as well, because I can see Sheffield just being hit as very hard in England. Morecambe, I don't know as much about, but it's no surprise, is it? It's no
Mm,
surprise. I work closely with clubs in the lower level, and the ground gradings are. I had a player on loan at a local county side. They got relegated to two divisions because their ground wasn't good enough. Well, their ground was a sports centre. You could get all the way around it, had concrete all around it. It had barriers for the pitch. What more do you want? It's only county level football. It's not, you know,
yeah,
they're not paying their players, and people, they try to charge them to come in, but what are you going to charge someone to come watch it? Football in a park in some of these levels, so you can't. So yeah, the FA just don't do enough. They're just money grabbers, in my opinion.
yeah, no, absolutely, and hopefully whatever needs to be done will get done to save the clubs like that, get the players played and get the players paid. Yeah, and hopefully they can keep their doors open. Right, we wanted to touch on the United game at the weekend. 2-2 draw was all that was needed to win the Premier League Summer Series, if you classify whatever that is as that. I haven't watched the game. I've been pretty vocal since the dawn of time that I couldn't care less about preseason friendlies. It doesn't appeal to me. I'm not going to stay up. I'm not going to get up early to watch these games where I don't think the starting 11s or even maybe some of the tactics are going to have any resemblance on what we do on the opening day. So I'll hand you over to Mark now, where he can explain what
That's
he.
why you have me,
That's
because
why
I
I
will
have
stay
him.
up and watch the games.
He
Uh,
he um he is our coach. He is the man who looks at things we don't. So why don't you take that away, Mark, and give us your honest opinions on how the game played out.
um, the first two games, absolutely loved it. Loved the first two games. I could see us trying stuff. I could see the other teams trying stuff. So it was played at Premier League pace. But more like a training game at pace. The third game, I don't know what the hell the manager was thinking. It was a bit of a shit show, in my opinion. The three up front, I was so happy to see in Burmo. I'm thinking, right, Cunha and Burmo, get Rasmus up there. Let's create some chances. No, he plays a false nine, rotating the midfield, those front three around. 1 minute when Burmo's up front, then Cunha, then Bruno's like, well, fuck this, I'm getting up there, and he's gone, and it just made the whole game a mess. And it was a mess. And I think pretty much whatever channel you've probably looked at, whether you've heard it in the media, they've all said the same. Dallo was a disgrace yet again. Far off the pace. I think he's probably had the least amount of minutes. But we had the classic, sorry lads, hand in the air moment for not going for a ball. But we're lots of ups. Luke Shaw finished the second game with a dead leg, and he played the third game. Nathan, he actually turned up. He didn't go injured for 6 months. He turned up and played. And to be fair, he don't do a bad job at left centre back. He needs to switch on a little bit more because he's not so wide. He needs to realise he is at the front post instead of a lot wider when defending.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some getting used to for him, and probably us. But yeah, Ugarte came in for some stick in the second game. He didn't really do much wrong. He looked knackered. That's what it. Let's be honest. He just looked knackered. The pitch was crap. I think it was.
So this was Mercedes-Benz Stadium, isn't it, in Georgia?
It was. I would have loved to have Naomi on tonight because I believe she was there, wasn't she? But they had Graham Lasso on comms on Sky or / Peacock, and he said it looks great from up here, but when he was down at pitch level, you could see that it had just been freshly laid. It's all knitted together, so the chances are people were catching their studs in the turf.
Right.
And for reference to everyone, all those pitches, people go on about them. They've all been instructed by FIFA for the World Cup. All of it's got to come up. The rubber pitch, everything's got to come up. You can't lay turf over the top because that's what they do. They have an artificial pitch, they pad it out, and then they lay grass over the top of that. So it's a fake pitch. That's why it's a little bit springy. And that's what causes the ACL injuries like we saw last year. But they've been told they've got to dig them all out for the World Cup, and it's got to be a fully laid grass pitch. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the pitches in the States, like you say, they're made for different sports, and soccer or football is obviously not on that high list of agendas. You had MetLife Stadium that United played at last weekend, was it? In the week against, I think it was Bournemouth or whoever it was. That hosted SummerSlam over the weekend for WWE, and like that comes up on a higher pecking order than football does in that country. So
exactly that, and this is the home of Atlanta, so as well they play out of the Mercedes Stadium, and the fact that they had to do something with the grass for that just shows it wasn't ready. And their football is not Premier League football; it's not played at that pace. But Everton turned up. Everton beat us up, as they always do, showing our lack of physicality in midfield.
Yeah.
But I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm sorry to keep saying it. Bruno left us totally exposed in midfield. He was meant to be playing in a 10, and every time he was meant to track back, you saw Cunha and Mbeumo go past him. Even if if he was the one who didn't close down the keeper, they actually got back before him. But it just meant that we were quite heavily spread, which from the first 2 games, that didn't happen when Bruno was sat in the 8. Evening, Jonathan.
Evening, mate. Do you think there's an element of on Bruno very quickly, and then we'll move on to the Sesko stuff? Do you think there's an element of maybe Ruben sort of saying, now, look, we need you to take a slightly different approach to this season? You were running your ass off last season, not always to avail, but most of the time you did okay and got us through the season. He got us out of the shit quite a lot of the time. So, credit to him for that. But is there an element that Ruben's sort of saying, look, now we've got you some support, so you don't have to be the one doing all the hard graft and all the work. You're going to have to take a slightly different approach how you play football this season, and that might be why, like you say, the exposure in the midfield being more prominent now is because Ruben's sort of saying, look, this is how you're going to approach this season. Trial it in these pre-season games.
100%. I hope that's what he's saying to him. But so the first game he played the 8 role, and he put Toby Collier in the 10 with which I thought was weird, playing Mount there, whatever. But he deemed Toby Collier fitter to start that match. The second game he played in the 8 again. No, sorry, he played in the 10 alongside Cunha, and I thought actually this works. They're linking up quite well. But we knew Mbeumo was going to play the next game. Now, I've said it before we signed Mbeumo, didn't I? As soon as we signed Cunha, I don't see how we fit the 3 of them in the team. And it felt like on Sunday, he tried the false 9 approach, trying to get 3 of them in the team, instead of changing his formation. I'm totally fine with him sticking to one formation. 3-5-2, 3-5-1, whatever way you want to look at it. 3-4-2-1, but it's we know that Bruno's going to play, right? And if you make a transfer, they're going to play. So now it's finding out how do we best fit players around them to cover for the inadequacies of Bruno Fernandes's discipline. What's this from Jonathan? United have played 4 pre-season games, 1-2, drawn 1, lost 1. Did we lose to Leeds?
Sorry, he corrected himself.
Yeah, I was going to say drawn 2. But in 1999, it was quite a good year for us, and we won 0 friendlies. So friendlies mean jack shit. My brother's just won his first friendly in like 2-3 years, I think. But because he doesn't care about friendlies, he cares about players learning the system and doing what he instructs. So you're ready for the first game of the season.
There's an element. I understand. There's a lot of people that take a lot from pre-season friendlies, but for me, and as I've already said, I don't care about them as long as the players look fit and raring to go. And from a lot of so Rio Ferdinand was talking to the media this week, sort of saying, because he's gone out and done his own sort of thing with his own sort of broadcasting company that he's made. So he went over, so he's gone over to the States with the team, and he said like the mentality is different, the culture is different. It's probably the best that he's seen it in probably about a decade. So you can see that, and you can feel a mentality change. Every time a player, I know they're trained and I know they're told what to say, basically. But even in their approach to media interviews, their attitude is sort of telling us, that they want to. I'm not going to sit here and be like they want to win the league or they want to get this or that. I'm a realist Man United fan. I don't see us finishing in the top 6. I don't think that's a fair. I believe it's too high of an expectation at this moment in time. I think realistically, I just think the top 10 and a trophy, either FA Cup or a League Cup, I wouldn't care less which one it was. That would be a fairly decent season, considering how dire we were in the Premier League last year.
I think Conference League is a minimum. Personally, we have to hit a European spot. And there are ways of doing that, which we'll cover off in a bit. But going back to the game, Bruno. So we're expecting him to play in the 8. I think that's fair to say. We would expect him to play in the 8 because, based on maybe or maybe not, if we sign Sesko or we keep Rasmus, they play up front. Bruno and Cunha are in the 10s, so he has to play in the 8, focusing on him. We therefore need a superstar midfielder to cover Bruno, who can play as a single pivot. Because I've gone back and I've looked at a lot of Sporting's early games, not when they were great, because you can't judge a team when they're playing superb football in a shit league. You need to see where they were when he said, I didn't start well at Sporting. This grew into something, yeah?
Right.
And what he does, Bruno's playing pretty much the role of someone he had in Sporting, and it's called, they call it, believe all these shit names, a floating 8. So you are an 8, but instead of being a floating 10 where you play in the pocket, it's the 8 that gets to just go around and be the playmaker and like quarterback from midfield. So that meant that he had to have a holding midfielder that basically plays at the point of the diamond formation. So he just sits, takes the ball off, and he pops it around. He almost plays as a centre back, an advanced centre back, rather than a midfielder. And so we have to make that signing. Otherwise, this is not going to work, because Kobe Mainoo is a striker who ended up playing in a 10 role and is now being tried to be taught how to play as a holding midfielder when he's about 4 foot tall. It's not going to work. And we all love Kobe Mainoo. Bruno is a world-class player, but he cannot defend. So, and he showed that by trying to get himself sent off at the end of that game, leading to the equalising goal. And just so everyone's aware, that would have been him suspended for the first game of the season, because it was a Premier League authorised event, so therefore that carries over. As we found out last year from another player who got sent off in that tournament. I think wherever it was then. So, yeah, it's dangerous to think if we don't get someone in, we're going to have the same issue. And there was a lot of head scratching and holding of his nose/eyes from Amorim, where he's looking at them going, they're not doing what I told them to. Hence the reason they're getting overrun. So are we still looking at this new 6-man leadership team? 2 of them are on the pitch, not doing as they're told.
Potentially. Not
understanding. So not doing is a strong way of putting it. If you don't understand the full micro movements that you might have to do, you can't just run up and down straight lines.
But we've also said, you've said on this podcast only probably a couple of weeks ago when we signed in Buemo, that these players, as soon as they jetted off to America, they're not getting a pre-season now. It's all media. It's small training sessions. So there is a chance that Amorim is shaking his head and scratching his nose and trying to figure out what's going on, because he's trying to figure out how, in such a short amount of time that we've got left before the Premier League season starts, because bearing in mind, we play Arsenal in 2 weeks? 17th?
We play Fiorentina on Saturday, and then the following Sunday, we play Arsenal 8 days later.
So he's only got now a week and a half. That, bearing in mind, they probably win. Do they fly back today, tomorrow? They should be back in the country.
They had Monday off from training. They actually were back in training.
Right, okay.
I think they've gone into the training ground. It's not officially opened until Friday, the new training facility.
Yeah, the new training centre, yeah.
But going back to the training, on what I did say, Amorim done what I really hoped he would do. So between the second game and the third game, everyone might have noticed we took a hell of a lot of players on tour. And a lot of them didn't play any football. Kone, all the youngsters, people like that. So what he actually ended up doing was doing an intense closed-door training session.
Right.
Tactical training session. And apparently it was a couple of hours long. And that might have been why we were so off the pace in the third game, because they actually were tired, because you can imagine the heat. Because they set up a training base in Chicago. That's basically what they did. And they had everything they needed there. So that every time they came back to the same place, which I quite liked. It's sort of like the World Cup mentality, isn't it? You play, you fly back, the hotel's already there for you. Everything's set up. So I said he wouldn't get to do much with them. And in theory, he didn't. Brada came out and said they did 30 events in 10 days or something like that. So 3 events every day. You can imagine certain players told, you've got to go here, you've got to go there. So you're not resting and recovering. Making out like they'd done some big Snapdragon event ready for this game on Saturday. I'm like, do you listen to what you're saying? Like, you're the CEO and you're not really backing the team here. You're just backing the finance side. But I suppose that's part of his main job, isn't it? Get money in the club. So
Yeah, and that's never going to change now. This
no,
is what football has created. This is what the PSR has created. You know, all these little events we're doing, it's all added onto the PSR, and it's just what football has created its own monster in that respect. So
but yeah, they finished the game. They jumped on a plane. They flew home, and they had a day off, and then they're back in training.
mm,
So that's what Amarin said. Now, whether they got a delay, I don't know. And they went, do you know what? Because I
excuse me.
haven't seen anything from United saying they're back at training today, and
No.
so maybe it's tomorrow morning. But even that's quite quick. No time with the family, straight back to training. He's
Mm,
taking no shit, and I absolutely love it.
mm,
This is old school managing. He's actually managing like a captain, which he was obviously, wasn't he? So
yeah.
I don't know what you think. Like, I know you said you haven't watched the games, but you're reading the quotes and the stuff Amarin's saying, which is getting taken out of context a lot. I think it was ESPN even went in on United saying they had a poor pre-season. You're like, what have we done wrong then? 2 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, pre-season results don't bother me in the slightest. As long as the players are looking fit and sharp, and there's an element of they know what they're doing. Like you say, there was an element in the last game where they looked like they were struggling, but like we've already said, it might have genuinely been because they were tired. They've had an extremely busy period out in the States, and now they're back. And all the quotes that you're getting from media, from players, from here, there, and everywhere are saying that the mentality looks different. The mentality is changing.
Yeah.
You know, they've got the bomb squad is the bomb squad for a reason. You know, Luke Shaw even came out and said, "No, we haven't got the strangler or the scragglers hanging around." You know, these are strong words, and you know
What
they're
did you
all
think
buying
about
them.
that? What did you think about that comment from Luke Shaw? Like that's a great comment and really well worded. But is it coming from the uh, the wrong voice, shall we say? The guy who's been
No, I
sat on the
don't.
bench for 50% of his Man United playing career, as in the treatment bench, that is, not the actual
Yeah,
substitute
but
bench.
that's not because of his lack of effort and lack of ability. You know, we know he's a good player, and we know on his day he's a good player. That's just unfortunate injury circumstances. You know, you can't blame a leg break on Luke
Oh
Shaw.
no, I'm not saying from our point of view, but I'm saying from a PR point of view. Was that not really like Luke? You could have done without saying that. Rasmus has said some weird stuff. Bruno said some weird stuff. Luke Shaw said some weird stuff. I don't mind it because it's more honesty. But yeah,
Yeah,
Scragglers.
but I suppose as a squad player, even if he's not a first team starter now, even as a squad player, you still feel as an experienced squad player nonetheless. You know, he's been with the club a long time, bearing him. So he's probably acting as a sort of him, Maguire, Bruno, some of the sort of elder statesmen of the dressing room. He's having to sort of say, no, look, we were as a club and as a squad, we were struggling with these individuals. Now that they're not here, it's making our lives easier, and we're getting on better, and it's working. Now that these players are out, and I understand what you're saying. It's from a PR point of view, it doesn't look great for the guy that's not played half as many games as he should have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that from an elder statesman of the club, to get a comment like that out to say, look, these players aren't with us now. Nonetheless, we shall see.
Well, funny that Jonathan's just put that comment in there about Hoyland will be the next one out. Whether you believe he's going to go the other way on loan or anything like that, I'm telling you, if Rasmus goes to the German league, he scores more goals than Sesko scored last season in that league. But he came out and went, yeah, I back myself. I'm here to fight for my place. Everything you want to hear, and I'm all for that. That's all you ever should hear from a footballer.
Mm.
Behind closed doors, you pick the phone up and you call your agent, or you whinge to your mum, or whatever you need to do. But in front of the camera, talking to the fans, it's I'm going to fight for my position. I'm going to fight. I'm going to give it everything I've got.
Yeah.
But Rasmus did turn around and say to the social media crew, so it was Beth from the United stand. It was, I can't think what his name is, from Stratford Paddock. that does the overlap shows.
Adam
They were all
McCullough.
there, and he said that basically United didn't buy him a striker to give him any rest. You
Not
know,
wrong.
you said that, I've said that, and I feel he's right to say that. It's like, don't judge me when I've had to play all the games and I'm still classed as a kid. So you can't on one hand say I'm a kid at 20 years of age, and then on the other hand say you should be scoring 25 goals a season for Manchester United.
Yeah.
And before anyone even starts, and I want to move on to Sesko in a minute, but we're going to do the same with him. He's only 22. He's still a kid, but he's also not a striker. So anyone who's seen all this content going, we're buying a striker, we're not buying a striker. The main striker was someone else. I think scored 35 goals last year in all competitions for RB Leipzig. So he plays in a backup, old school like second striker. That's his position. He doesn't score. He only gets a few assists. But going back to Bruno, we need to sign 2 or 3 more players. He said in an interview after the last game. You know, these are strong statements from the players where you're thinking, mate, you that's not towing the line, is it? I can't see Barada and people going, oh, well done, Bruno. Yep, great idea. Tell him we've got to sign more players. You know? On the Snapdragon stuff on the plane, he's like, he's videoing. It went quite viral. He's going up to Mbermo. I'll be the first one to interview you for Manchester United, doing it on a mobile phone. It's like we've all been waiting for you to actually finally turn up. It's like, Jesus Christ! Look, what are you trying to say? Everyone knew he was coming, but we haven't done the deal. It's those slight little things in the words when you're a Man United player. You've got to be spot on every time. So certain channels don't go, see a thread and tug at it and try and unravel the whole pre-season. So, but I'm all for it. If we're going to be that open and honest, I'm all for that this season. But let's see what they do if we lose a couple of games back to back, because we will.
Well, there's an element of we're probably going to lose at least our first, I would imagine, but we'll come on to that nearer the time. Let's move on to the reason that 150 people are watching us on Twitter right now, because I may have clickbaited us a little bit and put a funny title on. But we appreciate you joining us. If you've never been here before, jump over to YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we'll be doing weekly shows, at least 2 shows a week, hopefully when the new season starts. So if you're enjoying what you're hearing, head over there, give us a follow, give us a like.
It all helps us out to get the content out there. So
yeah, absolutely. So on to Benjamin Sesko. Now, you've been very vocal in your opinions of him, and that's fine. You know, that's exactly the reason we like having you, is that you say how you mean to say it, and that's what we want. I'm just going to read what Sky Sports are putting out at the moment. So obviously, Sky Sports use a lot of different sources, and they sort of collate their story into one. So I'll read what Sky Sports News are reporting at the moment. So Newcastle internally concerned that Manchester United were going to come to the table. Sesko does favour a move to Old Trafford. So Manchester United's offer, totaling £65 million plus around 8.9 million in add-ons, 75 million euros, 10 million euros, is short of Newcastle's. They've offered 5 million more. So they're around the 80 million mark. But Newcastle have offered more up front and more in total, but Manchester United have come to the table. One source maintains that the player does favour a move to Manchester United. He is open to both moves, and it is not that he is against Newcastle, but if it came to the two, Manchester United would be the choice. We are yet to hear back from RB Leipzig on Newcastle or Manchester United's offer. It is a confusing situation. Internally, they have been given encouragement that the player would be up for a move to Newcastle. It feels from the noises we are hearing that Leipzig will let the player decide. We have not heard the last of this. Their negotiations are still ongoing.
I think there's a lot to be said about the reporting on this deal that isn't being said. Benjamin Sesko plays for RB Leipzig, and he wants to move to the Premier League. So, of course, he will take a move to Newcastle, Manchester United. He was linked to Arsenal. So, who else is, did Liverpool try and sway people they were going to link in with him before going for other people? Because let's be fair, they tried to buy half the universe this summer and succeeded.
I do feel a little bit sorry, not a massive amount, but I do like Newcastle as a club. That every sort of player that they've sort of linked with. So you had Brian Mbramo, Ugo Ekitike, you had Johan Visser, you've now got Sesko. Every player that's been slightly linked to him and that they've been really close to actually signing a deal with, either we've come in and snatched them up or Liverpool have come in and snatched them up.
Yeah. Yeah, you just need City and Arsenal to join the party and just literally, full on gang bang Newcastle. But the fact is, Newcastle might be the richest club in the entire world, right? But they have no assets to enable them to spend this money through FFP, and that's the bullshit about FFP. But thank God it is, because otherwise they could sign everyone and anyone that could go to Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? If they're happy to go there, what was that film? The footballer who ended up, the Brazilians end up going playing football for Newcastle. Alan Shearer cameoed in it and things like that. Goal, that's the one.
Yeah, horrible, terrible film.
But let's be fair, we are United fans. We do have the best fans. But if I was ever going to put someone up against having better fans than us, I'd probably say Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? It's a great club. You don't really hear bad words about it apart from Mike Ashley. But as a club, it's a great club, and I think Nicky Butt used to say great things about his experiences there. But Sesko just wants out. There was one story saying he's accepted financials from both clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course he will. So that means there's no chance that if Man United are trying to go slightly over the top with the money, more than Newcastle, they're going to go over the top with the wages. So he's happy whatever he takes. It's probably going to be a massive increase. But I just don't like all the like. You might as well put a halo above his head and call him the saviour. Because whatever club he's going to, he's being almost put across like he's going to come in and score a shit ton of goals.
Well, let's put it into context in terms of what the deal would mean for Newcastle. So Newcastle are obviously being in a position where they may have no choice but to pay over the odds for any striker at this point. Because they've sold Callum Wilson, left on a free. He's now gone to I think it's West Ham, is it? Or
yeah. But they were always getting rid of him because he was always injured. So
yeah. And now there's an element there's a potential that Isak is leaving, although that is still up in the air. Not much has been said since Liverpool had their first bid rejected. Although it sounds like in the background Liverpool are working on getting rid of a couple of players to fund a move for Isak. And I tell you now, if Liverpool manage to get Isak, then the whole Premier League should be terrified.
Oh, I've said it before, mate. If they get Isak, Salah up front, Gakpo had already started to do stuff for them. They're still going to have Nunes. They got brought in Ekitike. They got Frimpong overlapping.
Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, and now I was going to say, and then the cherry on top was paying whatever it was, 130 million for Wirtz, who hold off on whether he does what people think he's going to do in the Premier League. It took De Bruyne 2 attempts to get to the best of the best. It didn't work at Chelsea, and he went off in other clubs. But he was clearly talented. But in 34 games, Isaac, however you want to bloody pronounce him, 23 goals according to this, what I've got in front of me.
Yeah.
This guy is not going to score that for Newcastle. If he does, I'm happy. If he comes in and scores 23 goals for Man United, I am buzzing. But I'm old enough and ugly enough to know that's not going to happen. Because I know leaks. And I know if you're scoring... Or we'll put it another way. It's got nothing to do with leaks. You can't tar one player with a brush and not tar the other player with a brush. When you're looking at age and you're looking at where they're coming from. I think that's facts speak for facts. What is going to make... out of all the players we are left with, bear in mind we're looking at 5th, 6th, 7th choice strikers. Ollie Watkins is the obvious one. People are reporting that, this is a done deal because of the way it's been worded by other journalists. It's like, basically, if Man United come in, he's got a list of teams that will, they have to accept the offer. So United could say, we're coming with an acceptable lower offer and it has to be accepted because he's got a list of teams. I would have thought it was Champions League teams. I would have thought it was some kind of clause. But there's something in his contract. But you can't tell me you'd rather not take Watkins at 30 or a Mateta or a Muniz or someone Premier League proven over a gamble on someone who is 1 year older than Rasmus Højlund. And Rasmus Højlund didn't cut it, but we bought him because of his potential. Yeah. Sesko has had this potential, and actually, from his youth stats, Rasmus Højlund outscored him goals per game. And played more first.
I understand what you're saying, and like you say, every transfer has got an element of risk to it. But with the Sesko situation, from European football experts talking about him, they sing his praises to a point that we know we're not buying a finished product. The fact that if we do buy him at whatever it was, I said
75 million in total.
Yeah.
Euros.
Yeah, £75 million. Yeah, give or take 73,900,000. So 74 mil.
85 million euros it is.
Yeah, let's do that. So 85 million euros for a gamble. We're not buying a finished product, and that's already a red flag that the market has got to such a point where strikers, doesn't matter where they're from or what they do or how many goals they score, you're immediately in the 60 million plus mark. Doesn't matter what you're getting.
Well, we paid 60 million for 2 finished articles already.
Yeah.
Cunha and Burmo. Premier League goal scorers, double figures each.
Mm-hmm.
You can't... this is not a dig. I like Sesko. But he reminds me of Jokovic, who went to Real Madrid. I don't know if you remember. He was a young... I think it was Eastern European. I want to say Croatian or something like that. I'm sure there was red in the flag. Serbian or something. And he's now gone AC Milan, a few other clubs. He's never cut it. But he was an amazing under-19, under-20 striker.
Yeah.
They brought him in. He didn't cut it. Odegaard, how long did he sit in Real Madrid before he literally left them eventually to go on loan to Arsenal? And look what happened to him. So it happens both ways. It can happen.
So yeah, on it, like a lot of people are saying, we're not buying a finished article, but he scored. How many goals did he score last season for Leipzig? Was it?
I think it was like 13.
So apparently he scored 13 goals in a poor Leipzig team.
Yeah, where the striker got 30-something. The actual out-and-out striker they play scored 30-something in all games.
Yeah. So we're not getting a finished article. That's my one. You can see it both ways, really. You can see it as a blessing, but you can also see it as it's a massive gamble in that respect that you were not getting a finished article. You're paying a lot of money for a player that hasn't proven it in the Premier League. And I get that is a worry. And like you say, if he comes to United and scores a boatload of goals, even if he doesn't score many goals, I'm still going to support the player because he plays for my club. I'm not going to. We're
He's
not
still
that
a
kind
young
of
player.
channel.
And that's what I'm trying to say is fans won't support him. They'll get on his back straight away because they've done it on Højlund. They've turned on him. They've turned on a kid that's been growing up at the club. It's clearly a Man United fan. Otherwise, he would never have done the bloody United stand interview, which probably didn't help his career. But they will turn on him because we need goals. If we don't get goals, we don't move up the league. But if we bring him in I'm still going to say it. The same thing as if we keep Rasmus and don't bring him in. But I do believe we will. I think we will. This is a done deal. I believe he's going to be the face for the new kit launch, which is probably next week. I think we bring him in, but we have to bring in an age-old striker for these guys. It is a necessity, but we need other positions. So weigh it up. And that's all I'm doing. My football brain and my heart are two different things. And if you score in 13 goals in the Bundesliga, in the same league, Harry Kane's getting 40 in the best team, and you want him to score somewhere between 10 and 20 goals for Man United. He's obviously not going to do it because Harry Kane was scoring 30 goals for Tottenham. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the bottom half of the German league being absolute dog shit, where eights and nines get put past some of them, and he's not getting goals against them. Because you can fluff your stats, absolutely fluff your stats. You can not score for 10 games, but bang in 5 against a crap team where they rotate the squad in these leagues. You look at PSG, it happens all the time. They're bringing Ramos off the bench and he'll bang in a few against some farmer and his Ducks playing in the French league. Portuguese league, why do you think Thingy's got so many goals? Because of the level of the lower half of the table. Even in Spain, it's crap.
Yeah, I think this deal for Sesko, Isak was back at training today with Newcastle, and apparently there was rumours and reports that Alexander Isak and Eddie Howe were going to have a meeting to try and convince Isak to stay. I think if that ends up happening, which I see is very unlikely, he's already made his views quite clear that he wants to leave, and if he doesn't leave, he wants 300 grand a week. If Newcastle aren't going to be able to do that, Liverpool will. There's no question about that. If Liverpool want the player, that Liverpool have already sold Tyler Morton today to Lyon for 15 million. So that's they're just doing what they can to fund an Isak bill. And then I think Newcastle were hoping that we wouldn't come in for Sesko. And then
because they spend 120 and they still save money on their and get money in their PSR.
So they don't want a Romano update. He chats a load of shit. We were saying backstage actually how we've all gone a bit off of him.
Yeah.
For British Show. Good evening for British Show if you're watching.
Yeah, if you want to come on for British Show, and plug your channel like you're plugging it everywhere else, feel free. But I'm sorry, it was me that brought it up. I used to think Fabrizio was the man, and then all of a sudden now his YouTube channel needs content every day. Other YouTube channels have stopped using him as a go-to man. They'd rather go to Jacobs or Ornstein or someone like that, and he's starting to be forgotten about by actual YouTube fan channels because it's not that he gives an update, but it's like when you're back at school and you're asked to have an open-ended question. What's your what's, when's, and why's? And if they're not in there, it's just a statement of intent, isn't it? I think I made a joke about Gyökeres. I could do an update about Gyökeres saying, they're still talking about it. Nothing's really changed. They're hoping
for Fabrizio's update, which we've already covered, that Sky Sports reported about 6 hours ago, is Manchester United's feeling from Erdete is even stronger. The club believe that Benjamin Sesko only wants United. Well, we've already discussed that if you're gonna, as much as United are in the shit and in the Ducks at the minute with how they are at the moment, they still have a massive pull. Gone that route, there's plenty more money from it. Can't blame him really, but 100%.
I will tell you one thing he reported an hour ago, which is a dodgy dealing, and it's no bloody surprise. Man City loaning players to Genoa, a club they own. We'll leave that there. Is that 116, 117? Yeah. So
We're not reading that out, Sean.
yeah, but the whole Sesko thing, Isaac, like you say, if he went to Liverpool, he'd pay for Sesko for Newcastle. They would actually benefit in their PSR as well because that frees up spare cash. I believe he wants somewhere between 100 and 150,000 wages. That's what was being reported originally.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Arsenal deal. So obviously you got to remember this. He was almost a done deal at Arsenal, and they pulled out. Why did they pull out? They went for Gyökeres.
Yeah.
So how that's another side of it. Someone else pointed out to me. You're never going to catch people up unless you go and find another Gyökeres, rather than the guy who goes, "What the fuck do you want him? He only scored 13 goals. He scored 50." Yeah, and there's no counter argument to that. That's solid facts of. Yeah, even if he only scores half his goal, one of them's going to get 6 and one of them's going to get 25. Yeah, I'm happy with that, aren't you?
Yeah. At the end of the day, like we've said, if he joins United, fair play. We're going to support him, but there is an element for us personally. I think there's an element of trepidation that this. Not to say he's going to flop or anything ridiculous like that. He might
No,
be a really good player and he might be a really good addition to the squad. It's just a lot of money to spend on a player that,
could crumble under pressure. I think it's the best way to put it.
yeah,
The pressure of Manchester United is so high. You just that's where the age and experience comes from. And
yeah. Bath time's
it's
got it spot on.
necessity. It's
The
evening
amount of
bath
money,
time.
the amount of money for a Bundesliga player for that position for me isn't the number one priority. It's just continuing what we've done for 12 years. It's absolutely on the button.
Yeah.
And we've already mentioned there's two players that I probably would have preferred would have been Ollie Watkins or Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Well, let's
Those,
talk about Watkins because they're saying he's lined up in case this doesn't succeed, and I'm like, what? You want Watkins to know he's like fucking seventh choice striker for Manchester United before you even buy him? That's going to bring him in full of confidence.
I mean, there's also an element of that Ollie wasn't our first choice. Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't our first choice in that respect.
I don't disagree, but Mateta's been talked about more than Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, but that's just a lot of.
Would you pay 80 million? Like, if we've got 80 million for Sesko, or 70 million, we'll call it 70 million for Sesko, or would you go pay 70 million to forget whether it's over the top? Give that 70 million to Palace to guarantee you take their striker, who plays in this formation and is an absolute beast of a man up front.
If he had, because bearing in mind he only done it for 1 year, Jean-Philippe Mateta. I probably
One more
would.
year than that
Yeah,
striker. That's the point I'm trying to make.
if yeah, fair. Yeah, I probably would. I probably would just fork out the 70 mil for
Yeah.
Jean-Philippe.
Okay. Would you pay 70 million and get Muniz out of Fulham? He scored double figures last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Would
I
you have paid
didn't.
70 million for João Pedro from Brighton?
Yeah, probably would have done. Bit
Do you
late
see where
now.
I'm going? Now, that's a
Yeah.
lot of
Oh
money
yeah.
for a Premier League striker from a lesser club, which is Manchester United's
But
route to the top. They've always done that. Of course, he's likely to. I've just seen that. This is a Romano update, isn't it? What I just said, the
yeah,
what, when, and why that aren't there. It's very likely, and it's very
Mr.
likely I'll win the lottery if I play it. Yeah,
I want
but
to know the Bath Tom. I want to know the what's the reason between why you're calling? Is it Mark you're calling Mr. Pyramids? I
yeah,
want to know
it's me.
why is that Mr. Why does that come from?
Because it came out on the other show, that when I was doing that. But I like the pyramids, the history, ancient history, things like that. So Yeah, so now I'm getting abuse for conspiracy theories and things like that, and I don't mind it because people don't talk about it enough in the world. Everyone just expects what's in a book. No one reads it, has their own thoughts on things. So yeah, Mr. Pyramids. That's the first time I've been called it, but I
I
quite
like
like
that. I like that. We haven't had a nickname for you. I was just going to go with Coach Mark, but I think Mr. Pyramids is
it.
spot
Mr.
on.
Pyramids. It's straight to the point. Boom,
It's
boom.
either tea bags or conspiracy theories. Take your pick. Yeah. There we go. Brilliant.
I totally lost what I was trying to say. My point I was trying to make was even a low level Premiership striker, who was our first choice striker?
Well, at the very start,
Very start, who was our first choice striker?
Gyökeres
Nope,
or Liam Delap.
Delap. He got relegated from the Premier League, and we were still going to choose him. Do you see
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you can't make.
But is there an element of because if you're paying he's if you're 70 million for Jean-Philippe Mateta probably still isn't enough because if you're buying from another Premier League club, that's why we've had like inflated prices for strikers in general. Buying from Premier League clubs, just you could add another 40 million to that. So you're probably looking at 110 million just for Jean-Philippe Mateta in that respect, or 90
I
million.
think you would argue the fact that he scored less goals from Burmo, and we're paying 62, 64, whatever
Yeah,
it
that
is.
doesn't matter, but that doesn't matter. As soon as you hear the word up front centre forward striker, you immediately that's 40 million just by saying those
I
words.
agree because I wanted 100 million for what's he called it, the midfielder, not what I was going to say Watkins. It's not Watkins. It's something similar.
Adam Wharton.
Walton. That's it. They that was 100 million, and that was a joke made by the after the FA Cup final. If that's what it would cost to get him out. You know, if someone wants to stump up 100 million, they can have him. You know, so I get that, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of talent in the Premier League, but even at a young age, Evans from Brighton scoring goals for Roma. You know, we've been interested in him for a while. Could we go for him? He's just as young. It's if this is your if you've got to go looking, I must have a striker. If the manager has stated that, if you're turning around to me and going, I must have a striker, I've got to be giving you more than just picking names out of the hat. Because it
Yeah.
feels like the only reason we're going for Sesko is because Arsenal went for him. Why did we not bid for Sesko 2 years ago when we went for Rasmus? I'll tell
Well,
you.
because we had
His stats were
Eric
even
Ten Hag.
worse. No, his stats were worse than what they are now.
Where was he 2 years ago? Same
Same
price.
club. Same club.
We're
And he
buying
was
potential, and that's always a worry for me. Whereas we've for this particular transfer window, we've been really solid in buying players that are good to go and ready to hit the ground running. And I just see that 85 million euros for Sesko. At the end of the day, if he comes, 100%, I'm pleased. Wasn't doable last season. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know why.
well, because they spent 70 million on Rasmus the season before that.
Mm.
But yeah, we could compare apples and oranges all day long. The main point is he's not a striker. That's the main point I want to try and get across there.
Well,
That,
every single thing online is at transfer market. Everything is saying that he's a centre forward.
but that's not where he plays in their team, and that's what I'm looking at it with my eyes and going, I know what you're saying, but that's not where he plays. Xerxes meant to be a striker, but I'm pretty sure most of us aren't saying he's a striker. He's a false nine slash weird 8/10. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So,
He's not
John,
a
yeah,
striker.
I think Jonathan hit the nail on the head, actually, is that we now have football people making these decisions, which makes me more confident than when we got Hoyland. And I think that's a fair, you can't really argue with that.
No, and on their head be it. But I'm maybe a little bit more old school. You've got to buy. If the manager says that's the player I want, then you buy him. But if the hierarchy is saying these are the players that we can get you, and I'm sorry, mate, but it's down to Ollie Watkins at 30 or this 22-year-old who has potential. then maybe we have to go and do that. But Jason, and it'll be on Jason Wilcox's head. So yeah, it could be interesting. It will be interesting, and I do believe it's a done deal. From as soon as United table a bid, and it gets accepted in the morning, because I believe that's when you'll find out. You'll find out in the morning if these bids have been accepted.
Yeah.
As long as we're not going in like we have for all the other ones and drag this out even longer with, can we pay it at £5 a week, Klarma payments, rather than actually just giving them money. Yeah, Sesko will join us. Of course, Sesko's going to join Man United over Newcastle. It's Man United. It's Newcastle. What's the weather like there? Well, Manchester, it rains a lot, but Newcastle, it snows a lot, and it's like 10 times worse than Manchester. What's the city like? Well, Manchester's a thriving, up and coming city, and Newcastle's not really a city. It doesn't compare, does it? Like, what's the training facilities like? There's a lot to be said. So, of course, if the offer's accepted, he chooses Man United. The only reason he might not have done that is if Newcastle had Champions League football. You got to remember that's where we're lucky. We're not coming up against Champions League sides. Which as of tonight, Champions League side.
Oh, are they back in it? I haven't just.
They were 3-0 up when we started. So.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah. I don't know if there's another leg to be had, but yeah, if they get back in there, they will be making a comeback, because that's some decent money coming back into that club.
Yeah.
Like Newcastle were just screwed with PSR. I think otherwise they would have sealed this. And I think you're right. If this deal and he chooses Newcastle, Isaac's sold within 24 hours. Because they've got the balance books.
Yeah.
So, and I feel for Newcastle, same as I feel for Aston Villa. I want a competitive Premier League, and finishing where they finish in the league and being forced to sell players or not allowed to improve their squad. It's not on when we can do it and we finish in 15th. So that's just football.
Yes, they did. They got Champions League football. At the very
start of the show, it's bullshit. The FA are screwing everyone over.
Yeah. No, I think that, I'll end the show the same way I started. So thank you everyone for watching. The numbers tonight have been absolutely brilliant, and the contributions in the chat, we really do appreciate it. If you are enjoying what we do and you haven't hit that subscribe button, go and do it now. We really appreciate every follow, every like, every single interaction with us. We really do enjoy it and appreciate it. I know Mr. Pyramids feels exactly the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We enjoy doing this. But yeah, so I want to end the show the same way we started. So as much as we love our football club, there's a lot of clubs out there, two in particular really struggling at the minute. You've got Sheffield Wednesday struggling to pay players, haven't paid players for at least a month. So
it's a couple of months. It's a couple of months.
So, and they're threatening to boycott on Sunday when they start their season against Leicester, and then you've got a club a bit further north in Morecambe who are just days away from closing their doors. And I think it's unfortunate that and a shame really that we're sitting here talking about 85 million euros for a player when just £5 million would probably save a lot of jobs and a lot of people's livelihoods, and these clubs need people's support. So as much as I know our following isn't massive, if you've got any way of sharing a news article about Sheffield Wednesday or about Morecambe, just get it out there, get it in the world, because people need to see these. And if you happen to have £10 million and you don't want to donate it to the Balls Out podcast, why don't you just donate it straight to Morecambe or Sheffield Wednesday? Get these players played.
Even if it's just 9 million and you give us one.
Yeah.
We don't mind. But he's right. I've got a team local to me, Lewis, very well known in the women's game for paying equal pay to their first team and their women's team. And probably about 2 months ago, they almost went bust because of it,
Mm.
because the sponsorship, where the women are doing well. And then you've got, obviously, who was it? Gary Neville's family run it, didn't they? They did go bust, and they've managed to come back.
Yeah.
Begins with B, and the name's just gone out of my head. Berry. This is happening more and more, and I think we're going to start seeing. Well, according to Jim Ratcliffe, we were going bust at Christmas, but I think as championship teams, this could be tough for them this year as well. So
this isn't just football clubs like your Uniteds, like your Cities, like your Chelseas that have got serious amounts of money. These are clubs that are run on a shoestring budget as it is, but it doesn't mean anything to the fans. They just need something. This is their release on a Saturday afternoon at their local club, non-league or football league. It doesn't matter. We want as many football clubs, and the fact that we hope that the football governance bill, now that that's in play, will maybe now be just in time to sort of save these clubs from having real financial issues. But yeah, we just wanted to finish on that because we think it's really important that as much as it's fun to talk about transfers for hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds, just a couple of mil for these clubs would probably is the difference between keeping the lights on and lights off and getting players played.
Well, let's be fair, every player in the Premier League, because I own a team probably from Div 2 downwards.
Yeah.
Every single player could go buy a team. And when you look at it, some have. Some, I'm not talking about the class of 92. I'm talking about old Blondie who works for BT Sports. He owns Macclesfield. Is it Macclesfield? Someone beginning with M. He owns there. It's not hard to buy a team. My local team is by someone who went through a car accident at a young age, got paid off, and he bought that for like 1 million. So get out there, support these clubs. Seriously, do it, because they supported us. Sheffield Wednesday, guys. Sheffield Wednesday. Look at the games we used to have against them. Look at the amazing players they used to have, and now they could be going bust. I said at the start of the show, it's close to my heart, Sheffield Wednesday, because it's my granddad's team. But this shouldn't be happening in professional football. And it's something where we've got to speak up as fans, because let's be fair, none of us believe that Sesko's worth this money. But think about it for all these players and what's inflating those prices for players and wages lower down. It makes the club go bust. When people don't want to pay more to go through the door.
No, completely agree. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe and share. If you haven't seen us before, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Get over to our Twitter page and keep an eye out for shows coming out. But yeah, until then, we'll see you guys very, very soon.
Take care.